Yeah. But that never came to America, so this was never used. And also, the N64 DD actually could connect online with various games. I do remember that. I'm pretty sure that's true. So other than that, there's really nothing on the bottom of this N64. And yeah, so that's kind of the consoles for you. And I already showed you the games. So now we're going to talk about controllers. So the N64 had this, which if you may have seen this on the internet before, and you might also be thinking, that everybody didn't really like this controller and makes fun of it that you needed 3 hands to play, which is completely understandable. There's even 3 handles on the dang thing. But honestly, I don't think it was a terrible controller, but I don't, it definitely does not go down as a good controller in my book, or one of my favorite controllers. It's like, yeah, I can play on this, but, it's kind of eh. But anyways, so as you can see, we've got A, B buttons. We have the C buttons, which are kind of like directional buttons. Except for like in some games they don't actually do directions at all. We also have the start button here. We have an analog stick, and we also have a D-pad. And then if we go ahead and look at the bottom here, we have Z, and we also have L and R. And this, which is kind of cool, honestly, and it's probably one of my more favorite things about the N64 controller, Donald Duck, is that it has kind of this like customizable like thing to go along with it. I guess you can call it. Can't figure out how to put it back in now. But yeah, so it's kind of got this customizable thing where you can choose what you want to put in here. So this can either be a memory pack, this is what this is. It's an off-brand one, and it also doesn't work. So, but yeah, I got that in there. So I got that. It can also be a rumble pack if you want to have a rumble pack for your game. So you can have rumble. I believe there's something else you can put in there. But yeah, so there's different options of what you can actually put in this thing, and it's pretty cool. So that's how you get your memory on the N64, and not through actual things that you put into the the GameCube. And also, another reason why people don't really like this controller is that this joystick wears out really fast, and because if you really look at how it's made, it's basically rubber grinding on rubber, and so like it's gonna wear down pretty fast. And so that it doesn't really make a great experience because this will break fairly fast, which has also made me kind of hesitant to play my N64, because I don't want to break this. So I want to get like an off-brand controller, so I'm breaking that and not an actual official controller. Which there are pretty cool unofficial controllers that look kind of like a GameCube controller, which we'll see in a second. And so I think that's pretty cool. But yeah, but really what Nintendo made this controller for was like it's supposed to be combinations of things. So some games you need the buttons and then the joystick, so you play it like this. Some games you need the button and the D-pad, so you play it like this. And some games you need the joystick and the D-pad, so they look like this. So it was really meant to be more of a combination thing rather than use the whole thing, and which is also why I think they added the C button, so that way depending on if you were using like this or like this, you wouldn't have to like move over and press this bumper. You could just press the bumper in the middle, and so that would act as your 2 bumpers. But yeah, so it's not the best designed controller, but at the same time, I don't entirely hate it. But that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people don't really appreciate that controller. However, what Nintendo did do is it was pretty much what they did, was they took the N64 controller and turned it into like a lot better, more compact version that you don't really need 2 hands for, and is pretty much one of the best controllers ever made. So ironically, they turned this, which people didn't really appreciate, into into this, which like people are still love. And in fact, they're still even making GameCube controllers to this day because they're making a Super Smash Bros. Limited Edition one for the Nintendo Switch. So this controller is still relevant. Like, they're still making these types of controllers because people love them that much. So, yeah. But yeah, as you can see, it's pretty much just a compact version because here's your joystick, here's your D-pad, here's your start, you got your A, B, and then they basically turn the C buttons into a C stick. So now you have two joysticks, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of what happened to your C buttons. They also added an X and Y, you know, because more buttons equals more possibilities. And then here's your L and R, which were your shoulder buttons, but are now your triggers. And here's your Z button, which was the middle one. So it's basically just compacted it. And another thing that's kind of cool about the GameCube controller, but was rarely used in games, was that it's pressure sensitive. So if you only press it down this much, like, it knows that you're only pressing it down that much rather than pushing it all the way down. So like, it knows like, oh, okay, how much you're pressing it down. But that was rarely used in any games. It was mostly just to press it down, and that's why the trigger goes down so far. Is because, like I said, it's like a pressure sensitive type of thing. But so, you know, that's just kind of how they did it. So it's a significantly better design and is really comfortable in the hands. And not only that, as you can see, it's still wired, but they did make a controller called the Wavebird, which is basically the exact same thing as a GameCube controller, but it ran off of batteries, and so you actually had a wireless controller, and then you put this little receiver into your GameCube, and then you could use a wireless controller, which is pretty cool. But obviously they weren't really standard. We didn't get wireless controllers until the Wii, which is next. And so yeah, that's kind of it, you know. So, get the controllers back out of here. So yeah, significant improvement in controller design. And now we come back to the consoles. And so that's kind of really the main differences. As you can see, they're fairly similar, but like very different. Like, the controllers are pretty much different. The design is different, but like, you know, like the 4-player thing and like the memory card slot and stuff, it's similar and it's not similar at the same time. Oh, and I guess you're wondering what colors of these consoles I have, because, you know, this green color isn't really common with N64s, and this is a little bit more common. But the Indigo GameCube is really the most common color GameCube. But this is the watermelon green, jungle green. This is the jungle green N64, because the watermelon's actually watermelon red, not green. But yeah, this is the jungle green N64, and then this is the platinum GameCube. So in case you're wondering what colors these are, because these aren't really the, you know, standard colors. Because normal GameCube has the indigo, which I said is like a blue purple kind of color. Like, it's primarily more purple, I think. Yeah, I consider it more purple than blue. And then this normally comes in charcoal gray, is what they call it, but it's kind of more of a black color. So yeah, there you go. That's all I got. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.